Greetings, ma'am. This is my presentation for the assignment, journalism assignment by myself and Mpilo Mbatha, and it's the analysis on the hindcuts story on the Citizen that I found on the Citizen, and it reads, Lee's killer must answer. So let's look at the lead. I felt like the lead on this article read, Rob Matthews, the father of murdered students Lee Matthews, wants answers about what really happened during the 11-day disappearance. As far as I recall, the story happened in 2004, and it's 2025 today, September, and the family still awaits on answers about what happened to their daughter. Let's look at the type of lead. I feel like this is a straight or summary lead, because it gives us the key fact up front, the key fact on what we'll be looking at, key fact on the basis around the story, and it gives us information initially before we even read the actual article. Next, we look at the gist of the story. The Matthews family is demanding the truth about their daughter's kidnapping and murder, questioning if Donovan Moodley acted alone and what really happened during the time Lee was missing. Which is quite understandable, because the daughter was missing for 11 days before she was found murdered. Until this day, the family don't know what really happened. They need answers on what really happened, and they are questioning if Donovan Moodley acted alone, which I think they're alleging that there might be other people involved that are walking free today that never and their daughter, the Matthews family daughter, never really received justice, because there might be people walking out free. So all these things come into effect that when they are seeking the answers of what really happened. Now let's look at the 5 W's and H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. First of all, we look at who. Who are the people involved in the story? Who are the main people involved in the story? People is Rob Matthews, Lee's father, Lee Matthews, the victim, and Donovan Moodley, the murderer, who is currently convicted. And next we look at what. The family is demanding answers and the truth about Lee's kidnapping and murder. As I said before, they're in search of closure and they need the truth on what happened. And we look at when. The push for answers is currently happening now, September 2025. This is a recent story that I found, but the initial case happened back in 2004. Which, as I said, the family is reopening questions in 2025 in search of well-deserved closure. So yes, happened back in 2004, and if my maths is correct, that is 21 years later. If my maths is correct, you're looking for closure, which is honestly heartbreaking. Now let's look at the location of this story. It happened in South Africa. Lee was kidnapped in Sandton, Johannesburg, but the body was found near Walkerville, which is honestly tragic. And we look at how. How did the story come about recently? And came about by assessing retired detective Piet Bijloveld's case documents and speaking out publicly through media. Is how the case came about. Is that I am assuming the family are questioning Detective Piet Bijloveld's case documents. Now let's look at the news values. First of all, we look at the timeliness. Apologies. Let's look at the timeliness. Even though the case is old, the family are still wanting answers recently, which make the story current. As I say, that happened 21 years ago, and today in 2025, it's still on the front pages of the Citizen, which make it current today because the family is awaiting answers. Secondly, let's look at the proximity. It's a South African case, so it's close to home for Citizen readers. If another South African Citizen reader reads it, they might relate, or they are easily open to the story as it's close to home, as I said here. Now, let's look at the conflict of the story. There's tension between the Matthews family and the justice system because of the lack of answers given to the family. As I said, and as I keep saying, as I keep suggesting, 21 years. I think that's the highlight of our story here. 21 years. The family still awaits for answers. And that's the conflict between the justice system, as the justice system once failed this family, as it failed many families before, and will continue to do so if there's no change. Now let's look at the human interest. I felt like it's emotional. A grieving family and a father makes the audience feel sympathy for them as they seek for closure. If I had to put myself in their shoes, it would be really heartbreaking and really painful that I don't know what happens to my sister or my aunt or my mom or whoever is a loved one. So I think us as humans will relate to the story because it's a heartfelt and it's a very painful story. Now let's look at the impact. The impact on the story. The impact is that it raises concerns about the justice system and whether the full truth behind Lee's murder ever came out. As I said, the family are questioning if Donovan Moodley acted alone. What if there, as I said before, what if there are other people involved that are walking free today? And that's the impact that the story has. That's that the questions that it has, after all these years, the questions still. Finally, let's look at the sources. The sources are what makes the story relevant, what makes it, worth a read. First of all, we have Rob Matthews, the father of Lee Matthews, directly qualified because he is the victim's parent seeking justice. Secondly, we have Piet Bijleveld, who is a highly respected SAPS detective who investigated the case, who has sadly passed away. His records form part of the evidence that the family now uses. Rest in peace, Piet Bijleveld. Then convicted killer Donovan Moodley. His conviction and role make him central to the story, though he is not directly quoted. So these are the stories that make the story eligible. It makes the story trustworthy because they are direct sources of people who are directly involved in this case. And that's the last slide. Thank you, ma'am. And condolences.